had my issues throughout life. So we have this quote that I repeat every single day. Episode. My last question is, if you could put a billboard anywhere in New York City, what would it say? Episode 10, we are officially in double digits. I'm here with Danny Mizrahi.
Double digits.
CEO, founder, Contangoit, also board of directors for GRC, managing director for GRC Americas. I've now known Danny Mizrahi, just like this podcast, for 10 plus years now. We originally met at BNI. Danny is not only super involved with pretty much every single New York City networking group, but he has been really a mentor to me. I've known you from EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, BNI, and anytime I've ever, hopped into a networking group, Danny's there. So, without further ado, the man, the myth, the legend, the guy who connects all different types of entrepreneurs together. Thank you so much, Danny, for being on the podcast.
My pleasure. Obviously, appreciate you having me, man.
So I think the first thing that I've always loved about you is how open and honest you are about your way of delegating the day-to-day responsibilities. Do you mind just telling everyone what your strategy with that is?
Sure. I mean, it all started, years ago when I was coached by EO and Vistage, and obviously it starts with the basic, which is working on the business, not in the business, classic E-Myth, right? Stuff like that. But also, Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Workweek, it's a really fun book. I don't know if it's going to have too many gems in it, but because it's an amazing book, it's really fun, right? So, but there was one thing in it called the to not do list, right? So I remember for a couple months I would keep track of every single thing I did. I literally wrote going to the bathroom, because I was keeping track of everything I did, right? So then after that, I took the to not do list and started putting everything that could be delegated to someone else and separating it, and very quickly realized that that's a full-time job. So I'm literally doing two people's jobs, right? Yeah. So Jack Daly would say, if you don't have an assistant, you are an assistant, right? So that we were talking about Jack Daly earlier, amazing sales trainer and sales presenter. So that was part of it. And then Dan Sullivan, who's the head of strategic coach, who wrote Who Not How, and he calls it your unique abilities. So when you're looking at that to not do list, and then you're saying like, what is it only that I can do? And what should be delegated at that time. And that's why, at that time when we first met, I was in like 20 networking groups, and, just that was my full-time job, is just, make sure New York City knows about Contango, who we are, what we do. At the time, it was cloud consulting, right? Like 10 years ago, we were cloud consultants. I was getting booed off every stage. I spoke at CLEs and CPEs, city bars, stuff like that, and people would say the cloud will never work, right? Now cloud computing is just regular IT, right?
That's just every.
So I would go from networking group to networking group, just saying, we have, at the time I probably said we have 5 people and 20 clients, but it was probably just like 3 of us, right?
Yep.
And maybe 2 of us at the time, and we specialize in cloud consulting. And that did, hurricanes, iCloud happened in like 2011. That really helped our brands. Hurricane Sandy was kind of a tipping point for lawyers and accountants. So all those people I was networking with, all of a sudden, we're talking to each other. How do I move to the cloud? How do I move to the cloud? So, we built that reputation in cloud pretty early on from that networking. So, but back to the question, like, my unique abilities was the networking. And as you kind of alluded to, giving, when you're doing networking, you got to give more than you get, right? So, I always focus on the 3 I's: invitation, introduction, information. When I'm networking with someone, I always say, even when we were just talking earlier, I was like, all right, I'm going to get like 5 more people for your podcast, right?
Yep.
Like my mind immediately goes to introductions or invitations or information, right? We keep spreadsheets of like how I can help more people, right? Go ahead, sorry.
No, I mean, that's how I think about you, though, honestly. Like, for as long as I've known you, one of the most amazing aspects of you in your entrepreneur journey is that you're always looking out for others. And I know that pays off huge dividends, because one thing that you've always been very honest about is that you get your business from word of mouth.
Yeah, I mean, we've grown to, multi-million, dollar company, 100% referral based. We're very blessed with that. We love it. Don't get me wrong. And we take referrals and they're very easy to close and stuff like that. Now, as an entrepreneur and someone who wants to triple up in 3 years, pretty sick of referral based only business, because that's just, what got you here won't get you there, right?
Yeah.
Classic lines from all of the books, right? Or that's the name of the book. But getting to where we've gotten referral based is definitely an achievement. We're very proud of it. Being on the Inc. 5000, fastest growing companies in America, very, very proud of it. But we're not going to be able to triple up, or get to the next level being referral based. So we are, trying to revamp that completely. Where are we going to get leads from? Emails, salespeople. Our new website, which is so awesome, really focuses on nationwide IT, because we do excel. We already very much excel in nationwide IT.
Yeah, why stop in just New York City?
Yeah, so we're really just going to talk about that more. And also, frankly, to be honest and transparent, probably shouldn't even be saying this on video.
Say it.
Yeah, but New Yorkers are pretty hard to sell to compared to the rest of the country.
Of course.
So by going nationwide, now we have, a little bit, I think, the New Yorkers are pretty much almost impossible to sell to cold.
Right. They're never going to pick up their phone.
It's just, between the emails and whatever, there's just like, because the other thing with New Yorkers is, if you need something, like even a Chinese food place, if you need a Chinese food place, you're not going to Google for it, right? Like you're asking your neighbors, what's, us on the Upper East Side, it's like, where do you go for sushi? Okay, I'm going to go there. Like, I don't care what Yelp says, it's word of mouth city.
Yeah.
And it really works here. You want to go nationwide, like right now, very proud of this. We have 62 5-star Google reviews.
Wow. 62
5-star Google reviews. We don't have a single review less than 5 stars. So if you're listening to this and you screw that up, I'm going to kill you. No, I'm just kidding. But 62 5-star Google reviews, and that's very important. It's going to be focused on the website also. We're very proud of that. That's another thing, right? Like, so now around the country, people are going to look at that and see, and it's real clients that say really nice things. Actually, I realized one of those reviews was a 5-star review that I gave to my own company. So it's really 61 5-star Google reviews and me with the 60. I almost want to delete that one because it looks weird.
Don't delete it.
Yeah, so the point is, going nationwide is a little different than, just focusing on New York, right?
Of course. Yeah, I think you've mentioned a lot. I heard in a lot of the other podcasts you read a shit ton.
Yeah.
So just walk everyone through, because I feel like reading is pretty much a dying breed. I mean, obviously I'm obsessed, and I buy all my books through Amazon because I love paper books. I love that accomplishment of flipping through it. I want to hear how you do it.
Well, that part I don't do. No interest in the paper aspect. In fact, every time we go to an EO event or Vistage or whatever
they give you a million books.
They give me the books. And then my wife is like, oh, $3 on Amazon. Let me put it in a box and sell it. So
entrepreneurs that are right there.
So now I don't even bring them home anymore, because I'm like, babe, the time that you took to find a buyer for the $3 book. I mean, anyway.
I got to buy from her. $3 is a good deal.
Right. So anyway, I read it, at the Kindle at night, and I listen to Audible everywhere I go, right? By listening to Audible, like I just actually listened to Jack Daly's book, Hypergrowth, because we just saw
Hypergrowth Sales?
Yeah, Hypergrowth Sales,
the best.
right? So it's a great book. I mean, it's basically word for word his presentation.
Yep.
I mean, and it's great. So, I listened to that in 1.9 times speed. And that's because, for some reason, I don't know why, because if you know him, he talks really fast. So, but in that one, he talks so slow that you can move it to 1.9. But the average New Yorker talks at about 1.6, right? So like you could start an Audible and start at 1.6 if, you're around here or pretty much anywhere, right?
And you can comprehend.
Obviously, other people around the country talk fast too. So yeah, I fly through books on Audible. It's so much fun. I still take notes, and make bookmarks and stuff like that, but I mean, most of the success that we've had as entrepreneurs is just the learning and growing. And
of course.
And it's like, why not, right? I want to be an expert at, if you want to be an expert at something, you got to put in 10,000 hours, whatever it is, right? That's like a line somewhere. I don't know.
Malcolm Gladwell, tipping point.
Tipping point. There we go. So, my point is like, I want to be an expert at. I really want to be an expert at growing.
Yeah, I was curious.
That's like our first core value. We're obsessed with growing. And so growing personally, growing professionally, all of the above, right? Better husband, better father, better executive, better leader, better everything, right? So I want to put 10,000 hours into that, right? Awesome. So that's what I'm doing nonstop, basically. I'm not counting my hours, but it seems to be a lot.
For 10 years, I'm sure you put in 10,000 hours knowing you.
That's a lot of hours, yeah.
So you're the king of networking, right? One of the best parts about this podcast is I show up into his office. We're on the 12th floor in West 37th Street and 5th Ave?
Yeah.
And I show up right behind him, and he's looking at the Google Calendar reminder, looking for the Zoom to click in, thinking the podcast was in a Zoom. And I said, nope, we don't do Zooms here. We bring Roger, we bring cameras, these hand mics like we're rappers. And Danny's response is, well, I'm glad I wear pants. So obviously networking has changed a lot during the pandemic, but pre-pandemic, you were the king of networking. You said you did 20 networking groups.
That was a long time ago. I was in about 20 networking groups at the same time, but that was when we talked about earlier about the to-not-do list, right? So my business partner at the time was like the inside guy. Mm-hmm. I was the outside guy. So the goal was, all day, every day, just hit it, right? Go to another group. And by the way, like some networking groups I was in, like one of them was like, you can't be in our group, you're in so many other groups, right? And I was like, yeah, but I sent the most business to the most people in this group. I was really annoyed by that because I was like, I use that guy for my products, I use that guy for my jewelry, I use that guy for this, I use that woman for this, I use that woman for this, she made my flyers for the company party, right? And I sent all this business to everyone. How did I do that? Because I know a lot of people.
Yeah.
And why do I know a lot of people? Because I am in a lot of networking groups. But that doesn't mean I'm not giving to each group or giving to each person. I mean, between the three I's, invitation, introduction, information, there is, definitely something that I can give, right? And like I said, and being in the other networking groups, by the way, I can invite one to the other. Invitation is one of them.
Yeah.
So, intermingle. But there was no way I wasn't just going to keep making things happen for other people, and some of it's selfish, right? Because you're going to get back more, right?
Yeah. So I feel like by this point, hundreds of
Although it feels really good to give, obviously.
Yeah, of course. But I probably know hundreds of entrepreneurs by this point. Some are successful, some not as much. If I were to poll those entrepreneurs, maybe 5 to 10% are doing networking groups. No one's doing double digits.
But now I'm in one now.
Thinking about when you were in all of those, what was the motivation behind it? Why hustle so hard? So it was all about growth?
At that time, honestly, it was about succeed. I mean, I didn't accomplish anything. I wasn't even making money. I mean, I wasn't making enough money to survive, right?
Yep.
Like, at that time it was Franks and beans for lunch, and it was, I might have told you this before, but like the best meal I ever had was a Thursday night. It was buy one lasagna, get one free on 73rd Street at this Little Vincent's, like amazing pizza place, right? So every Thursday I would get these 2 lasagnas for like $8, put it, split it in 4, and I had 4 amazing lasagna meals, right?
I love that.
So, it's not like I had, accomplished anything or anything like that. I was working 11 hours a day, 6 days a week. I would try to take Saturday off and Friday night, right? But basically, literally 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. between the morning networking groups, the evening networking, every single day. And then Sunday I would go to the office every single day, all day. I really loved doing that. And honestly, it was all in preparation for honestly, I stopped, once my first kid was born, Shayna, I stopped going in on Sundays. I started coming home, a couple days a week, right? At night, I was still doing probably like 2 events a week, right? And it was just kept on growing from there, Now if I do events, like hopefully I'm bringing my wife, right? Or something like that, But yeah, it was kind of preparation and vision. And by the way, I was in Vistage when I was like 26, 27 years old, which I never thought I could have afforded because it was so.
Yeah, why don't you explain to the viewers what Vistage is?
Yeah, Vistage is a leadership development group for business owners like myself. At the time, I was in what's called the Trusted Advisor Group, which is like, now it's like probably $400, $500 a month, but then it was like $300 a month, which was crazy. I was like, I cannot believe it. I cannot afford this, right? Now it's like $2,000 a month to be in the CEO group or something, right? So, but yeah, at the time, I mean, I had a great Vistage coach, Jerry, and he was just coaching me on, working in the business, working on the business, not in the business. So just like all of it was like, I remember there were so many people we hired at the beginning that were making so much more than me.
I had the exact same experience.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
And it felt really weird, but it was all for the purpose. Right. And, you just believe in the goal and I don't know. You just got to believe that it's the right way to build a business, right?
Yeah. Not to mention that when I heard you speak at networking groups, you were hands down always the strongest person with their pitch.
Thank you.
With what they're asked. You always get to ask the group what you're here for in terms of what your ideal client would be. Right. You would nail it, right? So a lot of that was probably because it became second nature to you.
And we had the playbooks. So I remember my business partner at the time, he said, why aren't you going out and selling? Why aren't you going out and selling? Why are you still here, right, in the office? Like, go sell. And I was like, I want every objection and rebuttal in my head done, right? If anyone says anything like, well, I can't use you, you guys have only been in this in 2 years. It's like, well, I had a rebuttal for that. Or, the cloud won't work, I'll have a rebuttal for that. Or I can't go Google because, that'll happen, right? So like, we had a sales playbook. I mean, we only have one salesperson today, right? So we've had like maybe one other salesperson. That we're being 100% referral based, again, very blessed. Yeah. But we've had a sales playbook substantially longer and probably so mature. The sales playbook is so mature. Wow. We've only had one person use it over the last 10 years, right? I mean, we've had a couple other salespeople that didn't work out over the last 10 years, and we have a really great one now, and Shelly, she's amazing. But nobody ever used it. But I didn't feel comfortable going out there until we had a playbook for it, right? So I don't know. It wasn't just all winging it and being strong. It was calculated.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you just jogged my memory. I remember when you shared that in the EO group I was in with you, and it was one of the most insane, impressive things. And then I remember Lon.
Oh, yeah, with Laura too, right?
Yeah. And I remember. Yeah. And I remember, looking at Lon. I'm like, we got to do something like this. This is the only way to scale. So even 10 years later, I can remember how impactful it was seeing how locked down your systems and processes were in terms of the selling process.
Yeah, we're a little, so if you saw our stuff today, it's a little ridiculous how, but
he's a little
classic E-Myth
neurotic.
Though. Yeah, I'm definitely about process. But if you read E-Myth, which if you're an entrepreneur and you haven't read E-Myth,
read E-Myth.
And I've been mentoring accelerators now for, EO accelerators for 11 groups now. Wow. Of 4 people each, and trying to push them to get to $1 million in revenue. But I wish I could force them on this, but they don't want me to force anything. That's
you can't.
Different topic.
You can't physically force people.
Basically, I tell them before we start. If you haven't read E-Myth, you need to read E-Myth because it's just so rudimentary.
It's the foundation for entrepreneurship,
and we're just going to keep going back to it. So you might as well read it. So I read that so early on, man, and I remember sitting on my couch with my then business partner and making an org chart.
Wow.
In E-Myth it talks about making the org chart, not of who you are today, because what the company's going to look like, right? So I made the org chart, and then you put your initials in each box, right? So I had my initials in half the boxes, and he had his initials in half the boxes, right?
Of course.
And then you start realizing, I could hire someone to be in 3 of those boxes, or I could do this, I could do that, or I could outsource this or that, and so it all kind of started there, right?
Yeah. So thinking about your success, I know a lot of times you talk about your culture. Mm-hmm. Obviously, culture has changed dramatically over the last 2 years. I would say most businesses probably don't even have culture anymore.
We're crushing it on. I'm obsessed with it.
Let's do it. What are you obsessed with?
Employee satisfaction. We started measuring ESAT, right? So we've been measuring CSAT, customer satisfaction, but we didn't have, if you're not measuring it, you can't improve it, right?
Of course.
So that's who's the godfather of management? What's his name? Anyway, so
Yep.
if you're not measuring it, you can't improve it, right? So we send out a survey to the whole company once a month, or is it every 6 weeks? I think it's once a month. That's just rate the business on how it's like the what's it called score? The what's that?
Net promoter
score,
Yep.
but a little different. It's just basically, rate how do you like working at Contango? And we're hoping to get over a 4.5 consistently. No, sorry, it's out of 5.
Yep.
It's important to know, because we're not shooting for a 4, on customer satisfaction. We're shooting for 90% basically. And so far we're hitting it, which is great. We do so much stuff, on culture, especially now. Like we've outsourced, but like we do the Zoom events because now we have staff worldwide also. Yep. So we do Zoom events with escape rooms and magicians, and like we've done some really cool stuff on Zoom. Some of the staff that's in the States, that's not in New York, fly them in for happy hours, nice. Events. We've done so many different things. I mean, I was alluding to it earlier where, someone who's been with us for a long time who really loves jazz, we're planning a trip to New Orleans for him for like a little jazz tour. It's
wow.
like just a thank you, for being here for so long and just being such a great part of our growth because frankly, and another thing is like, we have...
Send him to Frenchman Street.
Frenchman Street, you got it. I'm going to talk to you about that. Yeah. So, I have 3, staff in the Philippines that have been with me for like 6 years. And, on their 3-year anniversary, we sent them, their kids, their husbands to Singapore Disneyland.
Wow.
For all-inclusive, weekend. So we've done some, that's like, actually really affordable because it's Philippines to Singapore. It's like, really easy to do. So it sounds much better than it is, but for them it was epic, right? And then they are part of the interview process for more staff in the Philippines, right?
Amazing.
So then all of a sudden,
they
talk about how great the culture is here. And but we're always trying to improve it. The other day we started doing gym memberships, right? So for everyone.
Why
overseas, here, everyone,
of course.
Right?
Do it.
As long as you submit a receipt, right? We don't want to just, and they got to pay half of it, right? So like, let's say a gym membership costs $80 a month. We'll pay 40, right? So
I think that's great.
What the point is, because I don't want everyone buying gym memberships and not going, right? I want them to have skin in the game, right?
Of course.
So we do stuff like that, and cell phones, and the computers, and the Wi-Fi at home, right? And that's all pre-tax, right? So they really like that. So, knock on wood, we're hoping to win, the Inc. Best Places to Work, this year. We were told we're finalists or whatever. So, knock on wood, I really want to win that award. The other thing is like the Google reviews help. Glassdoor reviews help too, right? Now with recruiting, every single person I talk to when we're interviewing them is like, your Glassdoor reviews are pretty much better than every other IT company. And I'm like, that's what we're striving for, right?
Yep.
We want
the
people to be
that
happy here.
Talk shit and they have no,
There's a couple bad Glassdoor reviews. There was one that I replied to saying, actually, because I know who it was. I was like, actually, we really liked you. We want you to come back. And then someone that I interviewed the other day was like, that was a crazy Glassdoor response. I've never seen anything like that. And I was like, yeah, I don't know what happened with that, honestly. Like, I really like the guy. I think it was either 1 or 2 people, but we were like, oh man, why did that person leave? So, we really wanted to retain him. No, actually, it was something. It was more stupid than money.
So when you think about culture, right? Obviously, all these things you're talking about make a huge difference. I'm sure other companies say they do that stuff too. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, when I think about if you have an award-winning culture, I'm looking at your retention. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like your retention is unbelievable because you treat your people like they deserve to be treated. Things happen outside of work, unusual circumstances, and I know you're flexible with that. Mm-hmm. Thinking about that learning experience, is there anything that stands out to you that is different than anyone else, other companies out there?
Of what we're doing? Well, we do have this pretty cool thing called CrewWho. Shout out to CrewWho, I guess. It's so we're basically a company that has a lot of tickets, right? Like help desk tickets, right? So when the ticket is closed, the customer gets a survey, right, with smiley faces, right? So there's a happy face, a medium face, and a sad face, right? So that's how we measure customer satisfaction. A couple other ways, obviously, but that's a good measurement of customer satisfaction. So, but we've taken it to, like, that measurement is one thing, right? But now gamifying that process is another thing, right? Yep. So what happens is when one of the engineers gets a smiley face, they get like 100 points in the system. Then we also have a badge system. So obviously I'm obsessed with the core values. Talk about the core values, ad nauseum, right? But we have each of the core values there. So I could say, hey, you were being professional, and I can assign points. Like every month I get like 25,000 points that I can give out, right? So now we do the core values. We have one called failing forward, because people make mistakes all the time, but we don't want people to be scared to make mistakes, because then they don't try as hard because they're worried, right? So we have this thing called failing forward as a badge, where look, you made this mistake, but let's fail forward, right? And give a couple hundred points or whatever. So they get all these points. Now they can take those points, and they give them to each other all day, right? You're seeing people giving badges to each other. I want to shout out, Chris for helping me with something. I want to shout out Paul for helping me learn something. I want to shout out Pat for training me on something, right? So, or the core value, we work together to support each other. The core value, keep charging forward. They kept persisting, right? All this other stuff, right? So then they take all those points that they earn and they can go spend them in the store, right? Oof. So they could buy Sonos speakers or iTunes gift card, or in the Philippines they have different awards, but in different places, whatever, right? So that's not super unique to my industry, but it's definitely unique to other industries, right? So a lot of companies in my industry have tools like that, because they're basically built into the ticketing systems, but not all of them are using this specific tool, which is pretty awesome. But other industries don't have that. So if you could gamify the culture process also, I love that. I think it's very, very rewarding. I know there's other things that we've done. I mean, we've done crazy
No, the gamification thing is huge. And, I know EO is a huge proponent of that. I think about my own personal experience. One of our biggest struggles right now is drivers, right? It's not even just us. It's nationwide. Yeah. There's not enough drivers based on the amount of trucks that are on the road. So we give our employees $1,000 referral if a driver stays, comes on board, passes all of our insane training programs. We do that too, 3 months, $1,000. Yep. And we thought to ourselves, we need it to be on everyone's mind 24/7. Totally. So we said, whoever gets the most amount of drivers, free, all expense paid vacation.
Great.
And these guys are fired up. They're stopping other drivers at red lights. And, that separates us from everyone else that's just bitching and moaning all day long that they don't have enough drivers. Right. So I can hear you doing the same exact thing.
Recruiting in general for every industry has been insane. So these are all very important and differentiators.
Fortunately for us, and I'm sure it's probably the same for a lot of companies right now, the supply is less than the demand, which is usually never the case. Right. But people are home and they want services more than ever. And most businesses can't get their reach goals in terms of sales because they don't have enough employees. Right. So that's what we're focused on. Yep. You grind a lot. You're proud of your grinding.
Sure.
You're one of the few entrepreneurs I know that the more you grow, it doesn't detract you from taking it easy and taking your foot off the pedal.
Sure.
At the same time, you have 3 kids.
Yeah.
So for me, I know you're a guru in terms of your time management. Mm-hmm. What does that look like on a day-to-day basis?
Well, I just outsource raising them. No, I'm just kidding. Well, first of all, obviously, and it's not obvious, but my wife is superstar, unbelievable. She works too. But
we're going to start a podcast of all the entrepreneurs' wives that are on this show, because everyone says this.
I mean, that's like
it's the truth. I mean, it's same with my wife too.
Superhero, super supportive, super everything, unbelievable. Just
Shout out to Danny's wife, Sarah.
Yeah. It's just that's number one. Someone was asking me this the other day. 'Cause I'm working harder than I've ever worked. But I'm spreading out what I'm working hard on. I'm working really hard on being a better husband and having more fun with my wife. We do a lot of stuff together now. It's really, really awesome. And that, by the way, leads to, it sounds kind of like a joke, but there's an incredible ROI.
Yeah.
They say happy wife, happy life, right? But, or spouse, et cetera. If things are going well at home, things are going to go really well at work, because the energy, the focus, 100%. The support, right? So, so focusing on that has led to dividends at work too, right? And not just that, but with the kids also, right?
Of course.
So I do kind of feel like I'm working harder than I've ever worked. It's just I'm not all in on working that many hours at work now, plus, having a much bigger team with people that are just unbelievably qualified, and that goes, by the way, to the hiring process, the whole who, not how, and hiring experts at their jobs.
Hiring people that are going to be smarter than you.
Yep, absolutely. And they've done it more. They came from bigger companies. They teach me about getting to the next level, right? Those are all things that that are really, really important. But yeah, I'm still, 7-year-old, basically 7.5-year-old, 6-year-old, next week, and 3-year-old.
That's
right?
nuts.
In a small apartment on the Upper East Side.
That's insane. I remember when you just had your first kid.
We love it. We're having so much fun. And TMI, but we're mobile, meaning we're renting, because we never were really sure where we were going to stay.
Of course.
We rented on the Upper East Side with 3 kids all through COVID, so now we know we're staying.
Yeah.
Right? We love the neighborhood. We're going to stay. We think we're going to stay there forever, right? So, but yeah, so it's hard work for sure. But it's it's all about the team around me, right? Like, so the team at home, meaning my wife, she's a superstar, right? The team at work, unbelievable, superstars everywhere, right? It's that's what it's about.
Now, the team around you, it sounds like they are self-motivating in addition to having such a strong culture that they're your team members are motivating each other.
Sure.
How do you look for that? Like, what is a determining factor for you to know, this person's not going to need me to micromanage, or this person's not going to come back to me after they finish each project to be like, Danny, what do you think?
So you read Who by Jeff Smart,
Yep.
right? So Jeff Smart's book, Who, The A Method of Hiring, is amazing book. It's probably the best book on hiring ever.
Wow.
Especially for small businesses. So we follow that methodology pretty closely. It does, we do a phone screen. We use recruiters. We do a phone screen. And we have interview questions that are culture-based, right? Like, for example, one of the questions I ask is, what's the hardest you've ever worked? And every single person said, what do you mean by that? And I always say, the question's vague on purpose. And you could take it however you want, right? And then you see, some people are like, I configured a firewall, and it was really hard to do, right? And I'm just like, okay, if that's your definition of hard work.
You're not.
And then you have someone that's like, I had a baby, at the same time I was graduating, at the same time I was working, at the same time I was doing this, at the same time I was doing that. I stayed up for 5 hours, 5 days in a row to try to do this, and this. And I'm like, all right, this person understands what hard work is, right? That's not a requirement.
No, but I get it. I totally get it.
But it's a culture question, right? They understand what it means to work hard, right? So that's just an example of some of the culture questions that we might try to ask. But hire for culture, fire for culture, right? I guess, I don't know, I went on a tangent though.
No, that was perfect. I think it speaks really strong about your team. It sounds like that's why you guys are going to be the Inc. 500 best workplaces. It just overall, everything is connected. And I know one of the things I see right over there, your core values that you're obsessed with.
Yeah, we keep them on the walls. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know you guys talk about it before your Friday morning meetings. Why? And by the way, I was playing one of your podcasts in my office, and my general manager said, bullshit. There's no way that you care this much about core values. And I said to him,
oh my God,
that's not a lie. I know you. You would never say something if you didn't believe it. There has to be a reason behind it. So,
I guess the reason behind it is twofold. One, everyone, I try to meet entrepreneurs and business owners who have been there, done that all the time, right? That's my goal, that's my job, is to become a better entrepreneur and business owner, right? So it's literally my job, right? So, and they all, that's what you learn. Rockefeller Habits talks about it. Hyper Sales Growth talk about it, right? They all talk about this, Zappos, Tony Hsieh's book, he talks about it, Delivering Happiness, right? So every business that's been successful talks about the core values and the culture, right? But we actually just came out with a new version of our core values. It'll be on our new website. It's slightly modified, not a lot. I never thought I would change the core values because they're just so freaking good. It took us a long time to make them. It was about who we are and what we want to be.
Of course, right? Your identity.
Yeah, but then over the last 10 years, we
changed.
Yeah, and the last core value turned into we enjoy the journey together, right? We didn't have that before, right? And it's about things being hard and life is demanding, right? And careers, not jobs, right? Like, let's go through this crazy world and let's do it. And it ends with, like, if we're going to work this hard, let's have some fun while we do it, right?
Yep.
You know, so these are all things that are in the core values, but it's really important because, you know, okay, so recently we let someone go, you know, who was, you know, it sounds like a podcast where I'm allowed to curse a little bit. He was just talking shit all the time about other people, you know? And it was like, and other people, when I let him go, other people were like, he was a good tech.
Yeah, like
what
why?
was that?
Yeah.
You know, like that was random. And I was like, because I will never depart from the core values. I was like, I don't care how good of a tech he was. You know, you don't come into my organization and start talking shit about our family.
Yep.
You know? So, had to go.
Lashon hara.
What?
Lashon hara in Hebrew means I will not speak the evil tongue.
Yeah, exactly.
You can only talk, like, if I want to talk shit about you, I'm going to say it to your face.
Right,
I'm not going
right.
to say it behind your back.
Oh man, yeah, I was frustrated. I was really frustrated with it. And people we held like a town hall on the topic because other people were like,
Angry.
they weren't expecting it.
So they thought,
People were like, am I next?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on? Some people started to get worried. Like, are you making cuts, right? So we had a town hall meeting, and I was like, this is actually a lot more simple than it is. First of all, we're hiring like crazy, so you know we're not making cuts. I was like, I don't care who you are, what you do for this company. If you don't embody those core values, you're out. I mean, that's it. Like, and you know, obviously there's a little bit of leeway there, but it's this, you know. And by the way, the person was talked to multiple times, right? Like,
right.
You know.
I know you well enough to know you wouldn't just fire someone. You're pretty.
You're out.
You're pretty sensitive.
You looked at me the wrong way. Oh my God, I'm so sensitive. And I have so many people that are like, you know, help desk. That they, you know, the feedback I got was like, I cannot believe he took the time to even address our concerns.
Right.
Right.
Of
and
course.
I was like, first of all, I'm definitely going to do that because I felt so crappy about it because other people felt sad. You know, so anyway, I got to kind of get over that a little bit because as we grow, it's hard to do that. But we're still at that place where we're small enough where I don't like it. I don't like getting rid of people.
I agree with you 100%.
We've had some crazy ones. We had a guy that was stealing from us, and we gave him second chances. Guy on drugs that we gave second chances, and rehab, and this and that. And we had one guy who came out of jail on a work release.
Wow.
And came into the offices and was like, I need a minimum wage job. I need it right away, or else I got to go back to jail. And it wasn't like he was in jail because of having a gun in his trunk when he was going on a hunting trip, and he got pulled over.
And
So that wasn't like a felon or something, you know, but he got pulled over, and when the cop said, do you have any weapons in the car, he said yes. And he had to go to jail for that, because in New York, they don't play, right?
You're not allowed to have
he didn't know that, right? So he, you know, he was in jail for a couple months, came out, was like, I have to do another year if I don't find, you know, a job. Can you just give me anything? And we hired him because he embodied the core values.
Did he stay?
He actually he was with us for a while, and he was doing good work, you know? He embodied the core values, you know?
I love the second chances. Sometimes
it works. It's not for everyone, but he embodied the core values. Like, I have another guy who, you know, I would love to take back, but he didn't embody the core values in the we are professional sense. You know, I guess it's not professional to go to jail, but that's a different story. But it was a mistake. But, you know, the other scenario was, like, he would show up late everywhere because of some issues.
Yep.
And I love the guy. I'd love to have him back, but it says early is on time is late is forgotten, right? So can't be late everywhere all the time in the service industry where we're selling warm and fuzzy and we're selling great service all day, every day, where we're measuring CSAT, right? Customer satisfaction.
Yeah, and I think what I'm hearing here is emotional intelligence, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs lack that because it feels like you're in a silo.
Right.
It feels like you're the only one, and everyone else, they'll be with you, they'll come and they'll go, and obviously your emotional IQ is higher than most entrepreneurs, and I would guess that a lot of your success has come because of the fact that you can relate to these coworkers.
Yeah, emotional intelligence is a big topic. You know, using feeling statements is really important, right? Even when I'm mad at someone, you know, whether it's at home or at work, you know, this is how I'm feeling, this is why, instead of you did this, you did this, you did this. I mean, that's insanely important, right? Because you can't argue with feelings.
Of course.
You can't argue with someone's feelings. This is how I'm feeling. This is why I'm feeling that way. And then, you know, in my positions, this is what I'm going to need, right? Just can't argue with feelings. So,
one thing that I think about when I think about you and your success is you reach for the stars with clients. Like back 10 years ago, Dropbox was like, the biggest tech company out there. Then it was Google. Now you just told me earlier before the podcast starts, Microsoft's up next.
For events with us?
For events. So when you think about that, like, how do you get that? Obviously, without saying like specifics, but like more like
fine. The Google story was a pretty good networking story. I mean, I have a couple really good. Again, it's all about giving first, right? So, with Google, what happened was Google came out with this product that's now called Google Workplace, which is one of the most popular email solutions on the planet besides Office 365. I mean, there's really only two email solutions now, Google or Microsoft. And they came out with this thing called Google Apps for Business, and now it's called Google Workplace. Before that, G Suite, right?
Yep.
So they came out with this thing called Google Apps for Business, and that was one of the reasons I left my job and started my company. I was like, this is going to be big, right? Like, we should just try to focus on that with our clients, right? So what happened was we
no, we're good.
Okay. What happened was they were trying to sell into businesses directly. In our industry, you can't do that. You got to go through the IT consultant. It's called a channel program, or a value-added integrator or a reseller. But you got to get the IT guys to recommend your product because how is this small business or any business going to do the migration, set it up correctly, the calendars? Like, the migration is the hardest part. The training on the new products. So I said to them, you got to have So they were having these events, and I kept walking up to the front and saying, it was a guy named Alex at the time. He was really nice guy, but he was like, who are you? Leave me alone, right? So I kept going over to him at these meetings that they were selling to businesses, and I was like, hey man, so where I used to work in my company, like I was a Novell Platinum partner, I was a Sage Platinum partner, I was a Citrix partner, I was a VMware partner, I was a Microsoft partner. Like, I know good channel programs, I know bad channel programs. I think, I think, you're going to want to probably build a channel, right, and go through the companies because of the aforementioned reasons.
Yep.
And the guy was like, yeah, okay, leave me alone, right? And I kept him, mingling with him. All of a sudden, he calls me up in my office, which is my studio apartment at the time. And I remember him calling me and be like, hey, are you that guy that was like kind of harassing me about this channel thing, And I was like, yeah. And he's like, well, how much do you charge for your services? And I was like, I don't charge anything for my services. I was just I'm telling you, like, you can't, sell to businesses direct. The IT companies have to be selling this for you. They have to be motivated too. You got to give them margin.
Of course.
Right? So you sell a license for $5, you make $1, right? Something like that, 20%. So he's like, yeah, so we just hired this guy from Microsoft. And he's like, the first thing we need to do is create a channel program. So I thought of you. Do you want to? And by the way, this is like 12 years ago. So he invited me to go to Google every week.
Wow.
So going to the Google office 12 years ago, it doesn't seem like crazy today.
No, it seems crazy.
Yeah, but back then it was a secret. You couldn't take pictures in there. There was game rooms. There were toys. There was this. There was celebrity chefs all the time, right? So I was like, yeah, I'll come to the Google office once a week and talk about channel. And so for that reason, what happened was when they launched their channel program, they had one channel partner on planet Earth.
Wow.
And it was us.
Holy
right? And that's
shit.
how they launched their channel program. So naturally, we started getting like a lot of business from them. And I did the same exact thing with Dropbox.
Wow.
Literally, same exact thing with Dropbox. I did it on their website. I said, hey, I helped Google build their channel program, just because, and you don't have a channel program, and it was just wound up being, so then we started having events with Dropbox, a couple of really cool
amazing
events. And now that's not the story with Microsoft now. We're going to do an event with Microsoft, a couple other companies, about some of their products and stuff, and some of their new stuff. And, they actually came to us about it, which is pretty cool, because we have a good reputation in New York, and I guess they want to do some more marketing in New York.
Yeah, and I think, this could be a learning lesson for everyone watching.
It's still a giving story.
Yeah, just stop doing things for money. And you're just hearing Danny saying, like...
Free IT support for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. And you're saying, like, I'm going to give you value. Your company is going to appreciate this value. And then when it's time to sell a service, who are they going to go with?
Or not. It's fine too, right?
Right.
Give to everyone. The odds are pretty good in your favor that, things will come back. People will think of you. I think it's, very, very, true. Right.
Awesome.
I think there's a couple books about give and take or giver's gain or like a bunch of different things. Never Eat Alone, right? That's a big book on networking and giving first. So
I know earlier we were talking the future is bright for you and Contango. When you think about the next 3 to 5 years, what do you see in terms of your strategy, not necessarily like specifics, but like I want people to see how big picture you can go in terms of really pushing the limits.
I mean, we definitely have an aspiration to triple up in 3 years. And we think we know how to do that by, definitely the new branding, nationwide, creating a better buyer persona, very pumpkin plan. If you read Michael Michalowicz's book, Pumpkin Plan. So, focusing on that prize-winning pumpkin, So, being very specific on our target market and our buyer persona, which is basically a business owner that has a business owner, COO, CFO, founder, that has 20 to 80 workstation employees anywhere in the country, basically. So, being very, and realistically in populated areas across the country.
Just hold, if there's someone watching right now and they're interested, how do they?
For us?
Yeah.
The easiest thing to do is put in my name and Danny Mizrahi Contango in Google, and it'll come up with our website or my LinkedIn, right?
Okay.
Or DM at contangoit.com or info@contangoit.com or, LinkedIn, that kind of thing. So, if you're interested in that, it's great. And we always say we're happy to help out, even if it's second opinion or advice, free consultation, all that fun stuff. So, because it's about giving, right? And if they don't use our services, it's fine. I mean, a lot of people don't use our services because of we're on a scale of 1 to 10, we say we're kind of a 6 in terms of budget, right? We don't think we're the cheapest. We know we're not the cheapest. We know we're not the most expensive, for sure. We think we're like a 6 out of 10 in that scale, but we think we're the best bang for the buck. We think we have unrivaled value and efficiency, that's for sure. That's part of our new website also. But a lot of people, when I show them the budget of what it costs, it rules them out, which is fine. We can still help. So we have a really great reputation in the restaurant industry all over New York, and once in a while we get a big fish. Like we do all Magnolia Bakery, we do Bear Burgers, we do Masa, and we do like a bunch of donut plant, right? Like a bunch of franchises and chains or whatever it is, right? Or fancy restaurants. But we get a lot more leads to help out on smaller restaurants.
Of course, yeah.
And we help them out. They're not
off.
clients.
Right.
But you got to keep, helping out, especially that industry. They got hit so hard during COVID, like heartbreakingly hard. So basically anything they need,
De Blasio decided restaurants, they weren't essential,
Yeah. No, don't get me started.
Everyone else is good besides restaurants.
Don't get me started. Yeah, that was 2 weeks to flatten the curve. We did it though.
We did it. Congrats. So just a lot of focusing on your national footprint. A lot focused on growing this mid-sized firms that are going back in person, not necessarily remote. And if you're at a Magnolia and they tell you that the credit card system's down, they're probably calling IT support to figure it out as fast as possible.
Yeah. Just run away. Take that banana bread pudding,
and move.
Run.
So
no, just kidding.
One of my favorite questions is, you get a billboard, courtesy of Lug Life, anywhere you want. Where is it? What does it say, and why?
About for my company?
It could be anything.
I mean, the bottom line is it's got to say something like, let's grow together. I mean, it's got our purpose is to use our technology expertise to make sure everyone around us grows. That's our purpose, right? So we have an expertise in technology, cybersecurity, compliance, custom programming, wiring. Like we have an expertise in technology for sure, but we don't want to our purpose is not be great techs. It's let's use our expertise in technology so we all grow together. Even on the new website, we're nationwide IT for growth-minded businesses. We don't even want, I met a guy the other day that has a single or 2 car dealerships. And, we're talking about it and this and that. He's like, no, I don't want any more car dealerships. I don't want to grow. No, I don't want to do that. I don't want, no, I'm fine, and then budget was an issue, but it's not really a great client for us, right? We're working with companies that are also growing, right? So the billboard's got to say something about, your technology growth partner, right? And that's what we're about.
Love it. Do you have any questions for me?
yeah, man, I want to know what's next for Zach. You know, I mean, like, you know, what's you know what I want to know? I want to know, what do you do when you're not doing this? What do you really get joy from? You know, obviously, you know, you're 18-month-old, right?
But I think the viewers are tired of hearing me talk about how awesome my daughter is.
I'm sure. Do you show pictures to the camera? Like
no,
you know,
but we could, Roger. Let's do that. We'll put it right here, right now.
Or a slideshow. You know, edit it, and in between each question, just one flashing picture of Marley, right? Mm-hmm. Awesome name. So, you know, but like if you know, if you weren't doing work and you weren't doing that, like what would you just sit down and do? Like what would you want to be doing instead?
Yeah, so that has changed a lot, right? Ever since I tore my Achilles and I couldn't do my normal shtick. Yeah. Like I used to go hiking, long distance running, basketball, yoga, jiu-jitsu. That's all changed. Yeah. This 1 year has been a real pump the brakes and start appreciating life. And, you know, obviously I work a lot, 2 businesses, podcast, but when I'm not doing that.
Well, let's say you won the lottery, right? Like
I don't play the lottery. No, I don't even play the stock market.
You sold your company, right? You know, obviously, you know, you're hanging out with the family, you know, but what do you want to do with your time?
If I'm not working, I love cooking.
Cool.
I'm a creature of habit, so I love someone giving me instructions, going to the grocery store, learning what this random ass vegetable is. Wow, cool. You know, learning that whole process. I'm obsessed with gardening right now. I feel like I'm my dad saying this because I remember always ripping on him for why he would spend 12 hours outside, but now I see he was just hiding from Josh, Josh and I. Breath work, as crazy as it sounds, it's been an absolute game changer for anxiety, for high blood pressure,
stuff like that.
Yeah, like it started obviously from Wim Hof. Shout out to Wim Hof. We're gonna get you on the podcast. But just like being in control, figuring out ways to exercise without having to do high impact, stretching, like Roger knows, every night, no matter what, don't care. Either 8 to 9 or 9 to 10 p.m. I'm sitting in front of the TV. I'm stretching for at least an hour.
Wow, man, that's so good.
And people think that I'm a weirdo, but really, everyone here is probably taking advantage of their body. And that's what happened to me. I took advantage of it. I was running full tilt all day, every day, trying to do, 16, 18 hours. And then all of a sudden my body just said, you know what? I'm going to force you to slow down. So I have definitely been focusing more on being grounding, and that is really, really tough.
Sure.
I mean, we haven't seen each other since pre-pandemic, but you know me. I like to go until I can't go anymore. So I would say that's probably my biggest strength right now is just learning how to be okay with slowing the process.
Yeah, I definitely hear that. I'm not as good as I should be, but I did the transcendental meditation classes and got, I guess, certified. Bless you. And I don't do as much as I should, but it's really great. I mean, just to be able to like stop for 20 minutes and I don't know about you, but like I just remember thinking, I suck at meditation. I'm so bad at it. I keep trying, right? So I download another app and listen to another bullshit, right? Yep. And then you try all these different things with meditation, and then you learn. Have you done TM, like the classes and stuff? So you learn TM, and it's like, no, you can think about whatever you want while you're meditating. Just come back to your mantra. Like, make it easy, right?
100%.
And I was like, wait a second. So I'm not really bad at it, right?
Your mind's actually supposed to wander.
Yeah, like, so I thought I was so bad at it. Yeah. I thought, I can't do it, right? But now with that, like, no matter what, you're successful as long as you do your time, right? And we have these areas where we have the booths for meditating, right? So, I find that has been really great for me also, for breathing, for patience, for not reacting as fast as I sometimes,
of course,
used to do. I used to react so fast.
Same.
I still do a lot, and then for sleeping, really helpful, right?
Yeah.
So
it's funny. I never was considered myself a good sleeper, and now I feel like I'm giving advice to all my friends who can't sleep.
Yeah.
And a lot of it has to do with just facing your fears and not going to bed with that guilt that you should be doing another job.
Very interesting.
Yeah, and just confronting it, really. That's what
Anxiety,
I focus
right?
on.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's anxiety.
If you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and your mind starts racing, instead of freaking out while your mind is racing, think about it.
Yeah. That's
Don't
like John Sarno's book, Healing Back Pain.
Yep.
Did you ever read that?
No.
So people, if you have lower back pain and and you've been diagnosed as not having something physically wrong with your back,
Right.
You still have lower back pain.
You don't have a herniated disc or anything like that.
Right. I mean, I know people have had back surgery, and the only thing that worked for them was reading this book.
Wow.
And it's about
Lifestyle?
repressed anger.
Oh.
And acknowledging your anger, and because the muscles in your whole body
tensing up
from repressed anger, things that you're angry. So like he has these things with these mantras, etc., and like maybe even writing down things that you're upset about, right?
Wow.
Things that you're angry about. So it's the same idea where it's like. So for me, like nail biting has been a challenge for me, right? For forever. And now
There's a lot of nail biting entrepreneurs.
Yeah,
Someone else said
I think that's got to be a thing, right? For us, it's got to be like a common denominator, right? So now I'm like covering my nails. Right?
Yeah.
So but for me, I realized a lot of that was from repressed anxiety. To what you were talking about, right? So wait, so why am I anxious? Why am I feeling that? I mean, sometimes I'm just hungry, so that's a different story.
Yep.
But a lot of it is from repressed anxiety. So using that methodology from healing back pain into other areas like anxiety, like fear, like anger, like these different things. It's major emotional intelligence also.
Yeah.
Right? So they all kind of tie together. This crazy world of learning. They all just have these common denominators, right? So
it's amazing. If people want to find you, what's your plug?
Danny Mizrahi, Contango, you'll find me.
LinkedIn's his biggest.
Yeah, LinkedIn. I mean, we have a couple people manage my LinkedIn, so it's it might not be the best place, but I'm around. Where if you need, anything technology, cybersecurity, compliance related, that's what we do. So you can call us for that. Entrepreneur related, love coaching. So love coaching other entrepreneurs. So always reach out, but. Thank you for having me. It's just love hanging out with you, man.
Danny Mizrahi is the absolute best. He's the networking guru in New York City. He is so generous with his time. And
on the next episode, we'll talk about how I met my wife networking.
Yeah.
We talked about that.
Yeah, we forgot that. And ultimately, I'm just, I'm grateful that everyone could hear someone that's so honest, open, transparent. He's not afraid to show his strengths, his weaknesses, and everything in between. And for that, we're grateful. That wraps up episode 10. We're in double digits, Lug Life Podcast. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow. And thank you so much. Baby. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Mic drop.
Nice. Good job.
You're the man. Thank you so much. You mind if we just take some B-roll around the office?